Oh yeah!
Okay, so my name is Megan, and I am part of all of the tatting groups that I know of on Facebook, including Tatting Designer. And I posted yesterday an image of my first attempt tatting over a ring, which would be this. This is the picture that I posted, was a picture of this cute little project here. I'll make sure I have that in the shot so that you all can see it. It was done using, no, not that one. And I apologize, I have a bit of a cold, so I'm going to sound a little bit stuffed up. But it was done using ecru thread. Here we go. It was done using this. It's, I don't know if you can see this here, but it is DMC color ecru number 8. And I think whenever I used this for my ice drops that I was making, it's actually, it looks a little bit bigger than my size 20. See if I can get them apart, and we'll just compare here real quick. Here we go. So I mean, you can see the difference. It's bigger than a size 20, but because of how this tats up, it actually tats tighter than a 20. So even though it looks like it's bigger, whenever I used it for my ice drops, I ended up having to add a few extra stitches to my chains to get my chains to stick out the way I wanted them to, because it actually tats up a little bit tighter. So it looks a little bit cleaner when it's done. But that's what I used to make this ring. And when, of course, excuse me, when I posted that picture into the Just Tatting group on Facebook, I had a lot of you that requested a how-to video, or just, you know, the mechanics of how this was put together and wanted to see how to do it. So today I have my stuff here. You can see these are just little, they're just the plastic craft rings. I actually bought these from a store that's in PA called, PA's Pennsylvania, called Picot's, which is my favorite craft store, or at least they used to be. They used to have an entire wall of nothing but yarn and threads, and they don't have that anymore. They've downsized. And I think it's because Michaels has taken over, that they have bought them out. So they are now owned by Michaels. They still have their own name, their own brand, and it's still Picot's, but they are now owned by Michaels. So I already have one of them out. And in order to make this, all you need is one shuttle loaded with thread. And you don't have to load it the whole way. It's not going to take this entire shuttle, obviously, to make this little ring here full of, you know, covered like I did. But one of the things that they require, or that they request that you use, is a paper clip, which I forgot to grab. So I will be right back, 2 seconds. Okay. So now that I'm back, let's go ahead and get this started. So you have your paper clip, your ring, you have your shuttle of thread. You do not need to leave it connected to the ball, because this tail actually, you're going to use it to tie off at the end. And you're going to want a pair of thread clippers. Mine are actually really cool. Mine came out of a sewing kit, like a mending kit that you can buy over the counter at a dollar store. And they fold up like that. But I like having them because they're nice to have in my travel pack. So there's my scissors. Alright, so you've got your ring and your shuttle of thread. Now, the way to do this, the way that I did the pattern, is I did 3 double stitches over the ring, then a picot, then 3 more double stitches, a picot, 3 more double stitches. Then I did what's called an external ring. And I'll go over how to do all of this as I'm explaining this. But the first thing you want to do is leave a little bit of a tail. You don't have to leave much, just enough that you know you'll have enough thread to tie off with at the end, because whatever you leave extra is going to get either hidden or clipped, so you don't want to waste too much of your thread, or at least that's how I feel. So I leave about that much would be okay for a tail. You're going to hold the thread against your ring with your thumb, and you're actually going to pull the thread down behind the craft ring. Then you want to take your hook, your shuttle, and you're going to hook that and bring it up and pass your shuttle through. Then you're actually going to pull that down over the front of the ring, pull it out through the back. Whoops, dropped my shuttle. You're going to pull it up through the back, out through the back, and once again, pass your shuttle through. And then from here, you're just going to tighten down your stitches, and there's your first double stitch. Now we'll go through that again. You're going to pass the thread behind your ring, pull it up, pass your shuttle through, then you're going to pull it down in front of the ring, and you're going to pull it down, and once again pass your shuttle through that loop. And then again, it's just tightening your stitches, so that makes our 2 double stitches there. And I'm sure, I don't know if you can see from this distance, I don't want to try and move it closer to the camera because it'll just get fuzzy, but there's 2 stitches there now. So we're going to just repeat that again. Pull the thread down behind your ring, you're going to hook it, pass your shuttle through it, and I have to leave a little bit more off my shuttle. Then you're going to pull this down in front, hook it, pull it up, and pass your shuttle through. And once again, just tighten down. So there's my first 3 double stitches. The next thing you want to do for the pattern, if you're following along with my pattern and you wanted to know exactly how to make this, what I did next was I created a picot on my thread. So this little loop right here is a picot. So if you can see that, hopefully, this little thing here and this little thing here. So you can see I have 2 picots between each set of rings here, and this is probably actually where I got started, which is why that's so close. Okay, so we have our 3 double stitches. The next thing we're going to do is make a picot. Now the video I watched says to use a paper clip, and you're going to put that over your thread like so, and then you're just going to work your double stitch like normal. So you're going to pull it back, pass your shuttle through, pull it down over forward, hook it, pass your shuttle through again. Then you're going to let this kind of hang, and you're just going to tighten your stitches up against that. See that? Then you're going to do the same thing, make another double stitch, pass it forward, hook it under, pass your shuttle through, tighten your stitch. There's 2 double stitches. We're going to do 1 more double stitch. I'm getting my shuttle all twisted here. There we go. Tighten my stitches there. And there's my 3rd double stitch. Now I can shift my stitches, and whenever I pull this out, you can see there's not much of a picot there because of the type of paper clip that I was using. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm actually going to pull all this out, and this is going to look kind of awkward to those of you who are watching this. And for that, I apologize. Not me pulling stitches out, but the next part that I'm going to show you, hopefully I can show it where you can see it on the camera. Oops, I just passed through that the wrong direction. What I did for my first one is I did not use a paper clip because I did not like the length of the picots that it made, because they're almost non-existent there. Why do I keep going the wrong direction with that? There we go. And then 1 more to take out. And you can see I'm pulling it loose, and then I'm just flipping it to the other side of the ring, and then going through to undo those stitches. Okay, so we're back to the first 3 double stitches that I had on my thing. I did not use the paper clip. I do not like the paper clip. I used my tatting picot gauges. These are Clover brand gauges. You can see there. They had all of the numbers on them, but obviously I use my gauges a lot. I actually wear them around my neck, which is why they're on this big long string. But you can see this is 1, 2, this would be 3, this I think was 5, and then 7, 10, and 13. I went with the size 3 when I did this, and all I did was I kind of held it in place. And again, this is going to look kind of awkward for those of you who are watching, but I just kind of held it in place like so. And then I made my regular double stitch. So thread behind the ring, hook it and pull it up, pass your shuttle through. Then you're going to pull that down in front of the ring, hook it from behind, pull it up, and pass your shuttle through. Now here's where I'm shifting my picot gauge so that it's tight against my ring, and I'm going to tighten this stitch down beside it, like so. And before I take my gauge out, because this is such a silky thread, I'm going to make a second and third double stitch. So we're going to go ahead, and that's 1 half. There's the second half. We'll tighten that up. So that to me is now 2 double stitches for this next section. So we're going to go up, and then we're going to go down, pass through, and tighten. So there are my next 3 double stitches, because the picot is just this empty thread space. Now I can pull this out, and you can see I have a nice little picot there. This is the picot. This empty space here is the picot. This here is the next double stitch. This just secures that picot in place to make sure that it stays sticking up like it is. Otherwise you may have an issue. So from here I just kind of scooch my stitches together, because you don't want to leave any white showing through. So you can see, and I used a red thread because I figured that would show up really nicely on the white, and also it would contrast quite well with the background that I'm using today. So you can see I've got my nice picot, but now I have my 3 double stitches. I'm ready to make my next picot. So once again, I'm going to grab my size 13, or my size 3, I'm sorry, size 3, and I'm going to hold this in place. Now for some of you, you may have the hard plastic piece, the hard plastic picot gauge that is like one solid piece. I prefer these ones. My mother is learning to tat. She tried using these ones. She doesn't like these ones. She prefers the hard plastic. So I actually have an order in to get her the hard plastic ones here soon, because I was the one that taught her to tat, because I started doing a class. But okay, so we have our picot. We're just doing our next 3 stitches, making sure that picot stays nice and tight, because otherwise if I weren't to do these stitches, if I were to just take that gauge out of there already, what would happen is when I'm tightening my next stitches, I would actually be pulling that picot out as well, because it would be tightening the picot out of place. So there you go. There's those 2 picots that were sticking up. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do an external ring. Now the way to do this is you're basically just going to make a ring. So I'm not going to worry about going around the craft ring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap around my fingers like I do for my tatting. I'm going to make my double stitches, and I'm just going to tat it right up tight against that craft ring. You can see it's nice and tight there. Actually, that one's just a smidge loose. So we're going to actually pull that just a little bit tighter there. There we go. And then I did 3 double stitches. So 1, 2, 3 double stitches. Then I took that size 3 gauge again, held it in place, and did another picot. Now these are decorative picots. You could make them smaller if you wanted to make them joining picots. That's fine. What I'm doing here, now that I have that picot made, I can actually take that gauge away. So what I'm going to do next is tighten down. We're going to do another double stitch, 2, 3. So there's another 3 double stitches. You can see 1, 2, 3. So then I'm going to take my picot gauge again. Again, it's the size 3 gauge, even though you can't see the numbers on it. I know that's what it is. You're going to make another picot, secured by a double stitch. Pull my gauge out of the way. We're going to do another 3 stitches. So this is actually another 2 stitches after you make your picot. So 1, 2, 3. So there's another 3 stitches. Then I make a joining picot, so it's going to be a little bitty tiny one. I don't even bother gauging this one. Just enough that I've got a loop there that I can connect to. Do another 3, well, another 2 after that's secured, another 2 stitches. So there's 3 total. Then I'm going to go ahead and close my ring. So that makes the external ring. I now have my picots and my ring on my craft ring here. Now the next part I did is I made 3 double stitches on the ring before I did the next ring, and I tightened that down pretty tight to make sure my ring kind of stays in place. So it's 1, this makes 2, this will be 2 once it's done. Two, and then 1 more. Makes 3. Okay, so that's, so far we have we have quite a few stitches already done on this ring. You can see this project isn't going to take very long. So the next part that I did is, let me just get, because my shuttle has a pick instead of a hook, I have an extra crochet hook that I use to join my picots and my stitches. So the next thing we're going to do is another external ring. And whenever I did this before, I made this one a little bit bigger than the previous ring because I didn't want it to just be, 3 normal rings. I wanted something to kind of stand out. So I started with the 3 double stitches at the base. So there's 1, 2, 3. So there's my 3 stitches. I went ahead and took my hook. I'm going to join this picot. Pull that nice and tight. And then I do the second half of a double stitch to secure it. But I also count that as the first stitch for the next set of stitches. So that's 1, this makes 2. Let me stretch this out a bit more because I'm going to need this anyways. So we now have 2 stitches there, 3, 4, 5. Now the next section, to read it in a pattern, you would see it would be 3, join, 5, picot 1, picot 1, picot 5. So there's our 5 stitches. We're now going to make 3 picots one after another, and again we're using this size 3 gauge because I kind of liked the picots to all be the same. So we're going to go ahead and do, this is 1 picot with 1 double stitch. We're going to go ahead and do the second picot and a 3rd picot, all secured by 1 stitch. Now, those are our 3 picots that come at the top of this, but that last double stitch that I did to secure that last picot, that is also the first of the next 5 stitches. So that's 1, this makes 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So now I'm going to make another joining picot, so I don't gauge this one. This one's going to be pretty small. Just enough that I have something to hook into there. Do another 2 stitches after that for a total of 3, and then I'm going to close my ring. Now once again, I don't want to just do another ring and have all this white space here. So once again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another 3 double stitches over my ring. I apologize, my nose is starting to get stuffed up. I may actually need to take a break and blow it. So that's 1, this is 2. And this makes 3. So there's our 3 stitches between our rings. So now I'm going to do another external ring, and this ring is actually going to mirror this first ring that we did. So it's going to be like we're doing that one in reverse. And what we'll do is we'll do 3 double stitches. Make sure I get that nice and tight there. That looks good. 2, 3 double stitches. We are going to join to this picot here. And then we're going to do the second half of a double stitch to secure that. That'll count as the first of the next set of stitches. So we're going to do another 2 stitches to make a total of 3. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go back to that size 3 gauge. Hold that in place, and we're going to do 1 picot, the double stitch to secure, 2 double stitches, 3 double stitches. Then we're going to do another picot with a double stitch to secure. Then we're going to do another 2 and 3. And then we're going to tighten that down again, close the ring. And then just keep repeating that until you have this whole ring covered. Now you can see on the original ring, I have 4 sets of rings. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 with 2 decorative picots off the ring between each one. You can do this however you want. This was just how I did it. But from here, you would basically continue on. You would do another 3 double stitches. Tighten that down real good. Do another double stitch. That's 2. And then 1 more. Makes 3 double stitches. And then I would do another picot on the ring rather than another ring. So I would just continue going until I had this whole ring covered. So I hope that answers any questions that anybody had, and I hope that gives you an idea of how I made these. You can, like I said, you can add this, do this however you want. I just kind of winged it whenever I was making it. I wanted something that looked pretty and kind of lacy looking, and I kind of like what I came up with. But if you wanted to make this like some kind of earring, you could add a couple rings down here and make it where it dangles with a few extra rings or whatever you want to do with it. It's up to you. You can add rings where I put picots. You can take picots out. However you want to do it, it's up to you. So that is all for this one. Hopefully you guys have fun, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me.